Good morning everybody and welcome back to another War Thunder video. I hope the microphone's working properly because when I was playing with Scooter online yesterday the microphone was crackling like hell. Hopefully that's not a problem this time. Anyway, for today's video we're going to have a quick look, and I do mean a quick look, at the T-72A. For those of you who have been following the channel for any amount of time really, you'll know that the T-72 is my favourite tank ever, period. And part of the reason for this is because when I was in school, I basically got the opportunity to go on a science trip to the local MOD building. Those of you who don't know what MOD stands for, it's Ministry of Defence. And at this site they had a T-72. I think it was an A model, funnily enough, but I, to be honest, can't remember. And they had a couple of other bits and pieces as well, nothing that I was particularly interested in. I was too busy staring at the T-72. But we were allowed to both sit on and in the tanks and other armoured vehicles they had in the centre. So naturally I jumped at the opportunity, and there is a picture of me somewhere in existence, I don't know what happened to it, it was on a very old phone that I had at the time, of me sat in the commander's seat with my, my torso poking out the hatch here, holding on to the DSHK heavy machine gun that was attached to the cupola. And I also sat in the driver's seat, and just to give you an idea of how low profile these tanks are, I'm 5'7", I am not tall, okay? As a matter of fact, most people would consider me rather short, even though about 5'8", 5'9" was considered average height 100 years ago. People tend to be a hell of a lot taller now. So, yeah. Anyway, as I said, I'm 5'7", and I could lean back as far as I could, and I would not be able to shut the driver's hatch. So, I have heard that tank crews, or specifically Soviet tank crews, were picked to do, they were specifically picked because of their size. And honestly, I don't know if that's true or not, but I could entirely understand it if it was. But I digress. Any of you who know me well will know that this is the first tank I went for when this patch dropped, and you are entirely correct. I am 228,000 research into it so far, and still plodding along slowly. I'm actually going to do a proper full-blown preview, and, well, first impression and review of it when I unlock it. And this is just basically a preview, okay? So just think of it as a preview. So let's crack on. As always, I'm not going to do armor or anything like that. I save that for the full review. I may do it in the first impressions vaguely, but I'm not going to do it in this video because it takes too long to do it properly. So we're just going to have a look at the modifications, and then we'll jump into the test area and drive around in it a bit and see what it's like. So for shells, we have the 3B M9 Apfsds, a standard 307mm of penetration at 100 meters on a flat angle, going out to 263mm of penetration at 2000 on a flat angle. At a 60-degree angle, we're looking at 174mm at 100 and 149, call it 150, at 2000. We then have an upgraded Apfsds Shell, 430mm at 100, 400 at 2000, and then at 60-degree angle, 165 going out to 153 at 2000. Not bad. We also have a third Apfsds Shell. This is the middle one by the looks of it. This the 3BM15 is far better than the 3BM12, as you'd imagine, bigger number. It also costs more. We have a heat round, which is very nice, basically useless at top tier, but nice nonetheless, and standard HE. Now, the bit that I'm interested in is this T-72A 1983 modification. I'm assuming this includes ERA plating, although I haven't seen pictures or anything with it with this upgrade on. I did do a little bit of googling, and 1985 was the model that the T-72B was introduced at. Now the reason I say introduced at is because it wouldn't at all surprise me if this modification is basically the pre-production version of the T-72B. Meaning that obviously the B modifications would have existed before 1985 because they had to test them, if you see what I'm getting at here. So, and the upgrades for the T-72B over the T-72A were better transmission, better engine, better autoloader, probably with a faster reload I would imagine, but I can't comment on that. Scooter's theory on this is that effectively they wouldn't give you a straight up better tank in an upgrade. It would just be ERA plating or something like that. Either way, it's a T-72. I don't really care. This is going to replace my T-64A as a backup in top tier, and I'm going to play it on its own as well when I come to do the first impression and the review. So anyway, yeah, let's jump into the test arena and see how she drives. Okay, so here she is. Unfortunately, I don't remember if you can actually change the map for this test arena, or test area, whatever you want to call it. So we're going to have to just stick with Kursk. Now, for those of you who have been looking at the dev blogs and stuff, and the patch notes, will be all too familiar that they have included a new animation for the T-72, the T-62, the T-62M. They haven't added on anything else as far as I'm aware, although the BMP2 has started ejecting shell casings from its 30mm autocannon, which is very nice too. This is a gorgeous looking tank. You know, I'm going to digress for a moment. I see this tank and I just immediately think of, if I say the mission in Modern Warfare 1, Call of Duty Modern Warfare, where the Abrams shoots a T-72 through a building, I'm assuming you'll know what I mean. That scene, man, was just fucking awesome. Right, now, stop for a moment and just watch the animation. We ready? How fucking awesome is that? Do it again. Ding! The shell casings are actually modelled in the sense that they have physics, by the way. So, they should. They're not doing it at the moment. It seems to be they're firing too far over the back of the tank. There is I did see in some footage them like bouncing off the back of the hull. Try and do it at that angle. A little bit further to travel. Yeah, there we go. Do that again. How fucking cool is that? Naturally, it's not the full shell casing because, you know, most of it gets fucking... It's two-piece ammunition in a T-72, same as it is with most other T-series tanks at this sort of tier. So, let's try and see if we can hit this. That's an A1A1 on the move. Very nice. Target destroyed. This tank does have a battle rating of 9.3, so it's basically the alternative in Tier 5 to the T-64A. This is nice because even though people might not see the point in including more tanks at the same BR, I mean the Russians already have quite a few tanks at top tier, this allows players to have choice in which tank they drive. And I gotta be honest, if I was new to top tier, this would probably be my go-to for a first Tier 5 tank. But that's because I'm me, and I just adore this tank, so... I realise I don't speak for everybody when I say that, but... And don't forget, it probably has something to do with playstyle as well. As I said, I won't be looking at the armour for this thing properly, not until possibly just the review, maybe not the first impressions, but... I don't know, we'll have to see. I don't know how long it's going to take me to actually get this tank yet. I've still got to buy it and crew it, remember. And honestly, I find nowadays that actually purchasing and crewing a tank takes longer than researching it does. Even with... Ooh, that was a little bit high. Even with the changes that they made to the economy in the game. That was better, but... He's in a defilade, I can't hit him from here, I'm going to have to get a bit closer. The zoom on the gun sight is very nice as well. Some tanks in top tier do have issues with that. The Abrams and the T-80 are not one of them. And nice, target destroyed. I'm going to very much enjoy this thing. I hope that they put a skin for it in one of the crates that you can buy. I'm not a huge fan of the skins, to be honest with you. The inclusion of them is interesting. I guess it was a way of... Wow, that was terrible, Red. What the fuck are you doing? I guess it's a way of working around Sony's inability to allow any outside developer to put stuff in their on their console. I suppose, you know, it's a workaround for us PS4 scrubs. But either way, if we were to get an Iraqi skin for one of these, like they had in the first Iraq War, or even the second Iraq War, that would be pretty fucking cool, I gotta be honest. But Apfsds era Iraq tank skin for a T-72. Granted, the Iraqis didn't actually use T-72s, they made their own, called Lions of Babylon, which is literally what they were called, the Lion of Babylon, or Lions of Babylon, whichever you prefer. And I think that's part of where the T-72 gets its poor reputation from. The Russians did use them. As a matter of fact, there were some still in service until fairly recently. I don't know if they still are or not. They are in service with a lot of other countries still to this day, because they're cheap, and with the exception of the T-55 series of tanks, these are probably the most built tank ever, more or less. They were mass produced like hell for the specific purpose of being exported, although the Russians did use them. And I think that's where their poor reputation comes from. Is, for one thing, the Iraqis didn't have a fucking clue what they were doing as far as tank tactics were concerned. They thought that they could engage M1 Abrams tanks, well actually no, M1A1 Abrams tanks it would have been then, I think, and Challengers at long range, which they could not do. The Russians specifically told them when they sold them the first few tanks that they could use as like a test bed, they specifically told them that you have to push and engage the enemy at close range. That's what Soviet tanks were designed to do. And this is basically shown with the T-80 and how fast it is. That was the idea. Close in, grab them by the belt buckle and punch them into submission. But the Iraqis chose to completely ignore that advice and just decided to shoot at long range, and as a result they got the shit kicked out of them. The armour on the Iraqi tanks was not as good as the Soviet ones either, but you see what I'm saying. I think that's where a lot of their poor reputation comes from, personally. Feel free to disagree, by all means. I enjoy a good conversation like the next man. So, anyway, I think this will do for the quick glance at the T-72. Wow, that rhymed. I'm so clever. Yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. This is basically just egging me on to research this thing even faster. So, and I'll be honest, full disclosure, if I have to, I will chuck 10 quid at the game, just to have the Lions to actually purchase and crew this tank, so that I can get the first impressions and the review done as quickly as possible. And I really just want to drive it as well, to be honest with you. So, thank you very much for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. Yeah, keep an eye out. The first impressions and the review will be coming soon enough. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Cheers.